All right, everybody, welcome back to America's Mom. I'm so glad it's Friday. I'm sure you are too. School is out and we are ready to pack our bags and hit the road. But before we do that, we need to bring we got to blow up a few heads today. We've got to share some information today that I think is really important, and then also celebrate America 250. We're going to do a little bit of that today. Also, breaking news though, right before we got on in the last hour, Tulsi Gabbard has announced her resignation from her position. And I want to talk about this just briefly before we get into our interview today with Christy Stutzman and the America 250 project. I'm very excited about that, but this is huge because Tulsi Gabbard, of course, has been, part of MAHA, part of this transformation of America, leaving the Democrat Party, an incredible uniter across both sides, being willing to tell the truth, served our country. I mean, just a really stellar, turned out to be one of the most stellar people in the administration. And Michael Alber, our producer here, I just want you to join me for a few minutes and talk about this because this is huge. And am I frozen or am I okay?
No, you're okay. But yeah, very unexpected. I saw this just as we were setting up the program to go live, and that's kind of part of why we're a couple minutes late getting started. But I hate to lose Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm very suspicious about her stepping down all of a sudden. The announcement with her husband's cancer and all this is, I don't know. I kind of feel like after this CIA raid that wasn't a raid a week ago, that that may be more the reason for her suddenly stepping down.
So the CIA takes all the JFK files. They take more of the Russian collusion files. What else did they take that we're aware of? COVID
MK
files,
Ultra.
MK Ultra files. That's right. I wonder if we were going to see Brigitte Macron somewhere in those files. I was very curious about that. Like all the little webs that have been woven over the past couple of years. Tulsi Gabbard was definitely the one pushing for complete and total transparency to the American people. And so it is really strange. And I read her book a couple years ago, and I think I said like I wasn't overly, you know, it
Yeah.
was underwhelming. But one thing you walk away with is understanding this is a woman of intense mission and intense purpose, and she does not stop until the job is done. So when I was reading the letter that she sent to the president on her resignation, I mean, maybe she's making this her new mission with her husband, but obviously he's been with her for, I think they've been together, married for 11 years now. He's been through all of her, he knows her. Her mission
Yeah.
is her country, service to this country. It cannot be denied. The book, it is very clear. And then what she did, following her conscience rather than a party system in separating from the Democrats to put America first. I have a hard time, I have a hard time just agreeing with what is on the surface, I guess is what I would say. And we've heard so many times, I don't want to plant conspiracy seeds or anything like that, but the timing on on a very rare cancer is very interesting. And we've heard many times that the CIA is able and has done this to individuals and to world leaders, even. So what do you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive.
Was the condition for her husband's cancer being cured that she steps down as director of national intelligence? Um, I mean, the MK Ultra stuff is interesting too because these files were stuff that was supposedly destroyed before the church committee hearings. So this is a new tranche of documents that they found somewhere in the CIA headquarters that go back to MK Ultra, and same with the JFK stuff. Again, why release 98% of it unless you're covering something up? I mean, I do think these documents
Right.
made it very clear there's CIA fingerprints all over it. I mean, I know there's plenty of other conspiracy theories about who else might have assassinated Kennedy or been involved in with it, but I also don't see any reason some of those groups could have been linked up and serving their common interest of eliminating JFK,
Mhm.
whether that was for a variety of reasons, really.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
the,
What do you
I find
think
it
moving forward?
suspicious.
Well,
I don't know.
she's been kind of one of the last, we lost Joe Kent. That was a big, you know, debacle, really.
Yeah.
It didn't sit well with the American people. And, I am very supportive of President Trump and his agenda, his original agenda. And I think we're all having a little bit of a hard time wrapping our minds around what is going on right now. And so, do you see this damaging President Trump? I mean, because even just us, like, I mean, we literally were
Yeah,
on the same page. Like, that doesn't have this, that doesn't have the ring of truth. Not that I'm calling, I'm not in any way saying that Gabbard is being dishonest, but
no.
there may be some serious motivations to say my mission is complete here.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel. And you bring up Joe Kent's interesting too, because remember the media spin on him being pushed out originally. And then I don't know if you saw the interview he did with Sean Ryan, but he seemed to be asking a lot of legitimate questions. It didn't seem to be, oh, he just hates Israel and he's out of sync with the administration, and that's why we're pushing him out. Like none of that really seemed to be true. He was asking a lot of legitimate questions, and it wasn't just around the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is what they pulled him off of in investigating international ties to. He kept bringing up the first attempted assassination on President Trump, and the information that they have is available to them is not what the public has seen. That there's a lot more to that story, and I do think this guy was an intelligent asset. The first assassin, but especially when you look at all his connections, driving 3.5 hours to a or to a gun range that a bunch of feds go train at when there were, I think it was like 45 that were closer to his house. I mean, that
Oh
doesn't
wow, I
add
didn't know
up.
that.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He was driving almost to D.C. from where he lived in Pennsylvania. It was a 3.5 hour or 3 hour and 45 minute drive to the range he was going to. It's one that a lot of feds go to, a lot of CIA and FBI operatives. And if you drew a path out on the road, there were 45 different shooting ranges closer to his house. So that doesn't
Wow.
add up. I mean,
It
I,
doesn't, and you remember Don Jr. saying publicly that they weren't satisfied, but the president had said this is how it's going to
yeah,
be, and they all just had to say okay.
yeah, yeah. And
That
I've
doesn't
seen a
seem
few
right.
other. I agree. And I've seen a few other people bring that up because there's numerous things that we have on video too that don't stack up. Like it wasn't just ineptitude, not in my. I
Mm.
mean, how can things fail that poorly? But whatever happened to the guy that was up on the water tower? We never investigated that. There's this video of him coming down and hopping on and then running away. I can't remember if he was the one that jumped on a motorcycle or not. But there were numerous other angles to cover there, and then all the suspicion with his house and his parents. Like who doesn't have silverware in their house? When they went in and investigated,
Right.
there were no silverware, no anything. Supposedly,
Sounds like
this
a safe
guy,
house.
yeah, the parents won't talk to
Sounds
the
like a
media.
very safe house. I don't know.
It probably was. He's probably their MK Ultra stooge. That's
Yeah.
why they didn't want those files coming out. And here's the other thing too, with some of the other uh, investigations she was leading, is a lot of these are programs that, yeah, MK Ultra may have been shut down, but it just became something else. And it's not just MK Ultra; it was some of the other programs under MK. It was MK Often, which is was the. Are you familiar with this one already? MK
No,
Often.
but I just saw something from Marilyn Manson that's going to tie right into this that I think is very fascinating. What is MK after? I have not heard of this.
So MK Often was a parallel program running at the same time where the CIA was looking into Satanism, spiritualism. They were working with different mediums and other people trying to talk to the dead, and the program got so out of control that something at some point they decided to shut it down and destroy all the records after talking to a British psychic. And again, some of this is just parts that have come out in drips and drabs, so there may be much more to the story. And this is kind of where that oh, what is that group within the CIA that they talk about sometimes? The oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. They had ties to it, and I guess this is kind of where they had prominence. It's this Christian group within the CIA that thought they were going too far with the MK Often stuff, so they finally were convinced to put a stop to it after something major occurred, and I don't think anybody's clear on what that was. And then they deleted
I wonder
all
if
of the.
I wonder if Michael Aquino, Captain Michael Aquino, was a part of this whole MK after being a notorious Satanist, starting the Church of Set, and a
Yep,
prolific child molester and pedophile. Got away with it completely and was a part of in the Franklin scandal. He is mentioned as being a part of the brainwashing of these kids that were brought to the facilities there on base, and he was the one that was essentially, you know, doing whatever
yep.
it is they do to their scramble their little brains and whatever was going on there. He's mentioned in that book, The Franklin Scandal, repeatedly. Michael Aquino is, and that guy is still walking around. He's still
Yeah,
walking around, living
the
free. It's crazy. This is
you know
crazy.
The co-author of his book is on the board for TPUSA, right?
And that is a fact, not a conspiracy. He co-wrote this, the mind game. Basically, it's mental
Yep.
warfare. How to take the minds of the people and apply it, and they are applying that in their growth and expansion of Turning Point, which is bizarre. I don't understand about that. It's so weird. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. This is interesting, and I wonder if this plays a part. Marilyn Manson, by the way, has like an extremely high IQ. He grew up in a Christian home, supposedly, and he is actually a super brilliant person, like
Yeah.
really, really intelligent. And he came out recently, and he said that there's something called audio drugs where they were taking. He said that they were influencing the music. You would be influenced by the music that you hear based off of the certain decibel that they were using, and the rhythm, the pattern, the sequence. It's literally science. They literally scientifically created music that would get you to react the same way as though you were taking a drug. It is
Yes.
absolutely incredible. He's talking about it openly right now, which could be a part of these programs. Because I've always wondered, whether it is, gosh, I'm just thinking of some of the huge bands that came on the scene. Um, was it Jimmy Dore? Gosh, I don't want to confuse him with, who am I thinking of? The Doors. Who is the guy in
Oh
the
yeah.
Doors? A lot of
Uh
people said that he was a CIA asset. He was literally that his job was to create this music that would totally pervert society. I can't
yeah.
think of his name. He died
Now
horribly, and then we have the Beatles. The Beatles were huge for that too. Just going down this rabbit hole a little bit. I mean, they changed
Jim Morrison.
society.
Yeah, Jim
Thank you, Jim
Morrison was the
Morrison. That's
Doors.
exactly right. Yeah.
Well, even Marilyn
Yes.
Manson, he
Yes.
was supposedly part of a CIA mind control program prior to the murders out in L.A. and everything at Spawn Ranch out in the desert. I mean, there's connections back to a bunch of different prominent music artists and other people. And what Marilyn Manson is talking about, I think, is something called binaural beats. And this is something that goes back to the Gateway Project, which is part of the CIA Project Stargate and remote viewing. And this is
Ugh.
tones and whatever that are designed. I can't remember if it's to synchronize the two halves of your brain or desynchronize them. But they basically, like, you can watch as people listen to this stuff through stereo headphones. You can watch if they're on a brain scan, like activity change within their mind. And this was something that was used with some remote viewers when those programs were still going on through the CIA and the military to help them get better results. By the end of the program, supposedly they had almost an 80% success rate when it was abandoned. Which again, I don't know why you would abandon something that was eighty
Well,
percent
so what
successful.
is remote? What is remote viewer? What does that mean?
So remote viewing. Do you ever see the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats? That's all
No,
about
I didn't because
projects.
I can't.
Oh, it's a pretty good movie actually. It's kind of funny, and
Okay.
it's the main plot of the movie is fictitious, but a lot of what they're talking about is Project Stargate, which was the psychic warfare program. Started in the '60s. It evolved. It's not necessarily part of MK Ultra. I think it was part of a different program. So a lot of it was actually military more than CIA. But it was the idea of you would give people targets. They wouldn't know what the target was necessarily. You put it in an envelope, and then they would basically just empty their mind and whatever came to it, draw that or write that out. But there's some really interesting examples of success in this program. Everything from finding it was a down Soviet plane in Africa. Do you remember Steve Fawcett when he was killed in the plane crash back in the early 2000s? They couldn't find where he was. It was a test plane. This guy was a billionaire, and a guy named Major Ed Danes, who had been part of the remote viewing program for the CIA or for the military, he now runs his own program to teach people how to remote view. Well, they spent 6 months looking for this guy. So finally, Danes and his group remote view it and give them coordinates that were hundreds of miles off from where they were looking. But sure enough, that's exactly where this guy crash landed. They would have had no way to know this, no additional information. And even how they described the scene was a match to what really happened, that he survived the crash. Both his legs were broken. He then died a few days later from the injuries. He wasn't able to escape the cockpit, all the electronic failures, and I don't remember the other details on the ground, but they were remarkably accurate. And
That's crazy. I actually didn't know what remote viewing was. So again, these are not conspiracies. Like These are factual, proven things that our CIA that we've been funding and that they've been doing. And I think just bringing it back to Tulsi, I think she is somebody who wanted the American people to know what we've been doing, what our government's
Yeah.
been doing, and are we good with it? Or is this something we want to do? Do we want to pursue this? What about the MK Ultra program? Kathy O'Brien, I've had her on. I want to have her on again, especially in light of everything that's been going on and the exposure of these programs. She's one of those really loud voices. She says that she was a victim of the MK Ultra program and was used throughout the political elite. And having been, I can just tell you, like, people don't realize how I don't think it's really that hard to get into the inner circle. I really don't. If you keep showing up, eventually you're going to get invited in. I mean, it's really not that hard. Just don't be a weirdo and
Yeah.
keep showing up. And that's essentially all it really takes. Anyway, I so thinking of these kind of political elite situations where you have guaranteed, quiet people who will just do what you need, I
Yes.
I just don't have any problem believing that anymore at all, at all,
Yeah, and
not at
that
all.
that's I think Tulsi Gabbard leaving is just such a huge disappointment to me. I mean, I hope her husband's okay. I hope nothing happens to him. I do feel bad. I do totally understand if he's fighting this battle with cancer, if that's really what's going
Mhm.
on. I'm just very suspicious, especially considering again, she's one of the strong fighters that really have held their ground and have fought for some level of accountability. And you could also tell,
Yeah.
at least I think, that she was getting frustrated with a number of things, especially when it comes to the intel agencies and their lack of cooperation with the President Trump and with the American people's agenda.
Especially when we did realize and she realized that her department had more authority than any of the other agencies. They literally answered to her. And
Hmm.
I nobody realized that until she took command and took authority and said, "Oh, you will be giving me this, and I am in charge, and you will do as I say." So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think she's a woman of incredible integrity. I was pleasantly, wildly surprised at how really incredible she appeared to do this job, and I'm really disappointed.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think there's more to this story because there's not a lot of great people out
Yeah.
there. There's good people, but not a lot of great ones, and I think that she's been a great one.
Yeah, I think she has real integrity. And though,
Mhm.
you know, you and I and her may disagree on a number of political issues, I think that she's there to do a job, that she saw this problem the same way Trump and most of us do, that we can't have this embedded super government within our intelligence agencies, as even Brenner's out there running his mouth about just a week ago saying, oh, I've still got, he's still got, what did he say, a legion of operatives within the CIA and the intelligence community. Um, we can't have that. Every one of those people needs to be removed. And I can't help but think
Yeah.
that this is part of the real reason that she's stepping down. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's just all the abuse from the media for the last 5 years, ever since she's,
Oh,
uh,
she doesn't care about that. When you have Hillary Clinton gunning for
yeah,
you, who cares about that? That's what I'm saying. Like, she's such a savage. She is
yeah,
thick-skinned. She's so tough. She's mentally strong, like being able to keep this really like her energy. I've met her in person a couple times. Like, her energy is great. Her
yeah,
energy was calm and secure. So I don't think the media pressure I do not see that bothering her one bit.
no,
This has to be more than that. And maybe it'll come out in the next 90 days. Maybe we'll hear more, maybe not, because one thing about her too, her incredible allegiance to President Trump was
yeah,
extremely notable. And I know she probably did not. I can never see her doing what Joe Kent did. I really can't. And people can, whatever. I don't really care. But there's a level of loyalty just because you love the country and you're not trying to throw it under the bus. I don't think people really understand the magnitude of just completely, you know, I don't know. I just don't like it doesn't feel right for people who've been put in that kind of a position, like Brennan walking around running his mouth. Like, you're like, that is so beneath the position that you were
yeah,
honored with. And so it's just so weird to me. Like, you just want somebody to conduct themselves well. And I think Tulsi will be that person. So yeah. Tell the truth, but conduct themselves well and not throw the
yes.
baby out with the bathwater. I don't know. Michael Albert, thank you so much. Thank you. And it's been the 250 anniversary of America, by the way. And I really think it's all about the individual. I really do. I think America was founded upon the greatness of the individual, and now we each had individual responsibility to this country in order to make it great. Ask not what your country can do for you, right? But what can you do to make your country better? This has been radically flipped upside down. We are in such a group think mode right now, and they're not doing for me, so I'm done. I just can't even with it. And here's the thing about it that bothers me the most is while people are getting caught up in the outrage circus, you're not producing, you're not creating, you're not looking for business opportunities, you're not exploring, you're not expanding, you're not progressing, you're not building a legacy. And it just makes me so unhappy to watch this happen, to see people get sucked into the vacuum of the podcast wars and the clickbait nonsense and the rumors and all this stuff that don't really actually matter and that you're not called to. And so with that, I don't want to be that person, obviously. Try not to be that person that just gets people riled up and then you don't have an outlet for action. So this is why I love this. I love this conversation that I just had with Representative Christy Stutzman out of Indiana. Her husband is Congressman Marlon Stutzman, of course, and what she's doing as an individual. It's just like Ex America News, for example. Just a little shout out to Michael Albert and to Derek, and his last name is escaping me right now, but we all love Derek. We know who he is, West Virginia. And the vision that they had to start Ex America News. That's what I'm talking about. Individuals who are like, what can I do to serve my country? How can I help? And Christy Sussman is embodying not only this anniversary of America, not only being a strong mother, teaching and educating her own children, her boys, on the greatness of this country, but I think immortalizing history through culture, through an experience, and through the arts. We've talked a lot about taking back culture, but we really need to do some things that genuinely impact the arts in America in the best way, in the right way. And musicals definitely have that power. So I had the opportunity to sit with Christy, and I would just want to share this interview with you guys. And then we're going to show you the website afterwards. I want to ask you all just to consider something before we run this interview. Christy Sutzman, this is all a personally created, funded dream that she is bringing to America. And so I want to encourage you guys, once you've watched this, I want you to think about if you want to be a part of supporting and funding this effort to get this incredible musical. This is the Washington's Ring of Spies, this incredible piece of history that, had it not happened, we would not have a country. Take a listen to my wonderful conversation with Christy Stutzman. Well, I'm always watching out for these amazing, strong mothers who are doing incredible things, who refuse to listen to the noise and get bogged down in the outrage circus. No, they are action oriented. And that is definitely the story of our first guest today on America's Mom. She is a mother. She was a state representative in Indiana. She's been a teacher, and now she is a writer and composer of the works that established America. I'm so excited as we're talking about the 250th birthday of our country to see such amazing people like this using their talents and their skills and their absolute love and affection for this country to educate and mobilize America. Christy Stutzman is joining us on America's Mom because, Christy, you're doing an amazing work in your home state, but you're bringing something to the entire country to remind us of the greatness that we come from in America. I want you to tell us about your incredible project that is the Ring of Fire, this beautiful musical that you're putting together. Tell us what you're doing, and I want to hear a little bit more about your backstory. But I want to introduce people right away so that they're going to be able to actually go a ring of fire. It's not a ring of fire; it's a ring of spies that lit a fire in America. How about
Ring of
that?
Spies, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
Tell us
right.
about your project and what you're doing to enhance the history of America to so many millions of Americans across the country.
As a mom, I wanted to make history exciting, especially in history for my two boys. I was always looking for stories that would engage them and get them their attention. And of course, the word spy always gets their attention. And so I saw a little book in Mount Vernon one day when we were touring there, and I was like, okay, Washington had some spies. All right, let's read about that. So we got it, and I read it to them. And then there was a mini series about it, and I watched that, and it really kind of whetted my appetite to know, how did these people, come to be spies in the revolution, and what was their situation? And I found out there wasn't a lot of information about them. Reason for that, they had volunteered. they were living behind enemy lines. Washington and the Americans had lost the Battle of New York. And so these people were in New York on Long Island, and they were living behind enemy lines, and they were living among, neighbors who were loyalists. And so you had to be really careful about, what you did. They were really risking their lives during the revolution. And so I wanted to know, okay, who are these people? What's their background? What I found out was amazing. So like 4 years worth of research on this. And the more I found out, the more intriguing it was, because there was more than what the miniseries talked about. There was more than what the little book that I had found talked about. There was multiple books on it, but not one of them had all the spies that I had found and that historians were just now uncovering, because most of them went to their grave and didn't tell anybody what they did. So their cover was their actual life. So you had a farmer, a whaleboat captain, a tavern owner, an innkeeper, an enslaved woman. You had a merchant. It was us. It was we the people, from the beginning. And that's what I loved about it. And not only was people just doing what we had in our hands to be able to do, during a turning point of our country and the birthing of our country, but it was also young people. That's what I loved about it. They were like 30 and younger, these people that did incredible things. And so the more I dove into this story, I realized this is America in microcosm before we were America. And these people did something very similar to the World War II generation, where they did what was right. They did the right thing. They did their duty. They risked their lives. They came home. They didn't talk about it. They just went back to their lives, raised their kids, and just, lived their lives. So it was a very American story. But the thing that's most important to me is that these characters are relatable. Like, when they are us, I'm seeing, people reflecting me on the stage. And so that, to me, is something that we need in this country. We need relatable characters that empower us to say, you know what, I could do something like that. And so that's the goal of the whole, and it's called Washington's Ring of Spies. And it's debuting in Branson, Missouri this September, October. We're going to have a long run there, and we have a huge auditorium. It's like 2,000 seats. It's a little intimidating to me, but I truly believe that there's people that want to see uplifting, inspiring, true history that is accurate and that tells the story of America's incredible founding.
I want to back up for just a second, because there's so many amazing parallels to the story that you're telling within the founding of this country to really where we have found ourselves in the last 5 years in America, where really
Yeah,
feeling this intense feeling of oppression, of knowing that at any moment your government has the ability and actually in real time is turning on its own people. Under the Biden administration, there was
right.
so much weaponization. It feels very similar to what you were just describing. People being afraid to talk, being afraid to
Yeah,
assemble, being afraid to share what their ideals and values were, and to make an argument for the independence of America at that time. What did you find out that was most shocking to you with some of the most ordinary faces that ended up being a part and so instrumental in actually securing our country for freedom apart from the crown?
I think one of the surprising things that I found as I was doing research was, we all know Nathan Hale's story, or we think we do. And what I found out about Nathan Hale was that he was a young man who had graduated from Yale and was brilliant. And yet he volunteered to serve under Washington. And not just that, when Washington needed information from New York behind enemy lines, Nathan was the first to volunteer, and not many others did. He was only 21, 22 at the time, and he had no training, no cover. It was all just like, fly by the seat of your pants type of thing, where he's like, I'm going to go, I'm going to spy. And when the British caught him, he'd only been on mission for like 3 weeks. And when they caught him, he made some rookie mistakes. One of them was that he was carrying his Yale graduate certificate in his boot. He was also carrying other information that he had gathered in his boot. And so they found him out pretty quickly, and they hung him without a trial because he was a spy. And he requested a Bible. They refused to give it to him. He requested a minister. They refused to bring him one. He requested a piece of paper to write a letter to his mother. They let him write a letter to his mother, and then they took him out to the tree to hang him, and they tore it up in front of him, and then they hung him. So he was best friends with Benjamin Talmadge, who was the chief of intelligence for George Washington. He wasn't the chief of intelligence at that time. He was under the chief of intelligence. And Ben was from Long Island, and Nathan Hale was his best friend. So when he got this word, he was really petitioning George Washington to let him try, because he knew people on Long Island. And so he knew who to trust and who not to trust. And at 24, Benjamin was finally named chief of intelligence for George Washington. And as soon as he put his plan in place, and Washington started getting information. But what I also didn't know was the fact that there was a spy even before Nathan Hale, and that was Haim Solomon. Haim was a Jewish immigrant from Poland who had spent time in Europe with banking, with finance. He was really like exceptionally smart. He spoke 6 or 7 languages. He had gone to England, and he'd been searching for religious freedom, which I think is ironic. Exactly to your point, something that we have been seeing under attack in the last decade, he was searching for, and he came to New York. He found it here. He blossomed. I mean, he really did well. But he also joined the Sons of Liberty immediately, because it was 1775. And so he joined the Sons of Liberty in New York. 1776 happens, war breaks out. Pretty soon they lose the Battle of Long Island, and all the Sons of Liberty are living behind enemy lines. So he starts spying on the British on his own, no direction, gets imprisoned, talks his way out and says, hey, you guys aren't translating right to your Hessian mercenaries, so let me out and I'll translate for you. Oh boy, did he translate. He got out, and Hessians started defecting to the American side. So they put him in prison again, condemned him to death. The Sons of Liberty got him out like in a miraculous escape. He goes to Philadelphia and starts funding the war. So he was a hero to the heroes of the story, who were the spies. So he was about 37, 38 at this time. And, Abraham Woodhull was the chief of intelligence. I mean, he was the spy master, was 27. Benjamin Talmadge, chief of intelligence, was 24. Robert Townsend, who was second in command, he was 26. So these people were young and really, really patriots.
I think that a lot too was expected of them at an early age, and we're not great about that in America. We really try to defer responsibility to our
Yeah.
kids, and there's a lot that we could break
Right.
down in how you can be 24 years old and literally be leading secret investigations for the president or would be president of the United States. It's absolutely incredible. What you're giving me chills big
Yeah.
time as I listen to these stories. These kind of stories, one of my favorite books, well, The American Experience for sure, but I also have an incredible book right now on Sam Adams that I've been going through, Revolutionary. And I
Mm,
just keep thinking about how little we understand the actual sacrifice. And in doing
yeah.
this project,
Huge.
what has really stood out to you about sacrifice that you see maybe we are very diminished in society today? How would you reflect on the sacrifice of 1770, well, 70 leading up to 76, 78, all
Yeah.
those years in between,
Hmm.
and today?
Man, the choices these people had to make were life and death. And it was every day. They were living it every day. So their neighbors that were loyalists could have turned them in. Anytime they took a trip into the British headquarters in New York to try to get information, could have turned them in. The young woman who was enslaved in Oyster Bay and thought she was escaping to the British to be free, and then they didn't free her, and who started spying on the British, she was risking her life every day. And it was all because they were all hoping for independence. They were all hoping for freedom. And Haim Solomon actually gave the equivalent of about $24 million to the revolution to fund it. And without his sacrifice and just generosity, Washington would not have made it to Yorktown. Washington was to the point where people were starting to leave and go home because they weren't being paid, and they were running out of money. Haim came to the rescue there, gave him $20,000 to make sure he went to Yorktown, but he also died penniless. He died in a pauper's
Oh,
prison.
wow.
He died of tuberculosis. He was never paid back. He was giving no interest loans and 0.5% interest loans to founding fathers, was never repaid. And to me, that was heartbreaking. I just thought, these people not only did this, but they did this with no no idea of being repaid, no idea of seeing this to fruition. They didn't know if they would live to see their kids to be in freedom. And afterwards, when they won, they could have gone up to Washington, who did a thank you tour, and said, "Hey, General Washington, I was one of your spies on Long Island." Not one of them did it. They all walked away, went to their graves, didn't tell anybody what they did. So they were doing it for the right cause with the right motives. And, you know, in today's in today's TikTok, you know, viral generation, it's so countercultural to what we're used to seeing. And but it really goes to the root of who we are as an American people, that we have gone overseas to fight battles for others to make sure that they can be free, that they can stay free. And we've sacrificed a lot. And we all have that story in our family, right? You know, I mean, great grandfather was in World War One, World War Two. I mean, and they just did it because it was the right thing to do. And I think we could use more of that right now. And I see that in moms. I see that who are in moms who are running for school board or going and speaking out or fighting for their kids and standing up. You know, I see it in the young people that are starting to stand up and say, you know what, I'm going to speak truth and I'm going to do it boldly. They're all doing it because it's the right thing to do, and they love their country and they want freedom.
What you're doing right here, though, in with art and using beauty and music and the well scripted word, which you just can't. Again, in the TikTok world and the hashtag world, a
Yeah.
well-written script is such a blessing too. I want to hear beautiful language and beautiful words. You're inspiring this incredible love for our country. I am hearing from some who've actually recommended that I reach out to you and have you on. Is this is going to parallel Hamilton, and I am very, very excited to see this. I'm so thankful for your vision that you've cast on this. So for everyone out there who is wondering, what can you do to celebrate America 250, to inspire your children to know the sacrifice of what it cost for this country to exist? This is going to be that opportunity. So the show starts in Branson, Missouri, in October. I think October 17th is going to be the last day, right, of the show.
Right. So September, like Memorial Day weekend, not Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend through October 17th. And you know, the thing that arts brings to the table is that, okay, I'm seeing like the musical 1776 is being performed like all over the country right now because of America 250. Hamilton has been around for a decade. When you look at the popular culture right now, whether it's Wicked or Dear Evan Hansen or the things that have come off Broadway, they stay around in the culture for decades. And that's what we're really infusing into this. It's like it's kind of rooted in the classics, but it's an updated sound. It's not exactly Hamilton with like the rap and stuff like that. This is more of like, think like Oklahoma,
Classic.
Newsies, you know, type of sound. But then there's going to be those heart moments too, where, you know, every Broadway style musical show has those moments that kind of get you to tear up a little bit, and it kind of hits you at home. And there's several moments like that where it's a father sending his son off to war and never thinking that he would have had to do this, and being so proud but being so torn at the same time. Moments like that. Or a son who's trying to take care of his father who's elderly and making sure he's going to do whatever it takes to keep him safe. Or, you know, Liz, when she's talking about To Breathe Free. So all these moments are moments that will live on in song and will stay on for decades. And we're hoping that we can take this on a national tour once we have the first run in Branson, and then also license it to theaters across the country, for high schools, for universities, for theaters to perform. So there's life after Branson, but we've got to get it launched first. And the thing is, like, it seems like conservatives are not really in this space as much. And we're trying to, you know, make sure that we are a part of the conversation and providing truth in this whole, you know, area of arts and culture. And so we need a grassroots thing. And I've told a lot of people, like, you know, if We the People funded a story about We the People, I think it would be the greatest irony, you know, that it wasn't some big major funder from Broadway. It was us. who were telling our
Yes.
story and putting it on the stage and saying, let's celebrate what we the people have done, what God has done through us, how divine providence has led us, from the beginning, to be what we are today. So ringofspies.com, you can buy tickets now. And then there's also like a place where you can sponsor, you can be one of the sponsors, you can put your name, in the program and on the screen and stuff like that in the beginning, and have like behind the scenes little sneak peeks and things like that. So ringofspies.com is where you want to go. We've got a Give, Send, Go page as well. You can find us there. But yeah, I mean, we're looking for help, and we're looking for people to believe in this project.
And we want to see, listen, guys, this is where we say, or I'm saying, skip your Starbucks drive-through for the day, and instead we're going to invest in something that elevates America and elevates the future for our children and leaves
Yeah.
a legacy. That's what we're talking about. This is a classic piece that's going to leave a legacy for our children. I cannot wait to see it. So I want everybody to go to ringofspies.com, reserve your seats there at the beautiful Freedom Encounter Theater in Branson, Missouri. This is the family vacay this year, guys. Your church groups, your youth groups, your
Yeah.
school, your high school groups, especially Texas. I'm looking at all of you guys, Texas and Florida. I expect to see you all there, advancing freedom and liberty and supporting and participating this great American experience. This is going to be absolutely incredible. Christy, I just want to say, I mean, people don't realize the amount of time and effort and the passion that really has to be there to create a vision like this, because this is hard work. Nothing you're doing here is being handed right over to you, and I can't thank you enough for
No, there's no
following
AI
through.
here.
Yeah, no AI, no
Yeah,
chat
there's no
GPT
AI.
helping you out. Mm-hmm. I
No,
cannot thank you
no,
enough.
no
So,
helps there. So it's all research. Yep.
we love it. And again, guys, go to the Give, Send, Go. We'll put that up here in just a moment. Producer will put that up, and go to our Give, Send, Go and contribute today. Skip the coffee this week, guys, and contribute to the ongoing accurate history of the greatest country that God has ever given man on this planet Earth. Thank you so much, Christy, for being with us and sharing this incredible story with us. I cannot wait to see it. I'm all about this. I mean, reading about our founders is what really helped me to start understanding the incredible price and sacrifice to live in a country where we can say whatever we want about it, and so can everybody else in the world, and we still get to live free.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Thank you so
Appreciate you being
much.
with
Thanks
us.
for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us. All right, sorry. I'm like sitting here getting choked up again, thinking about all the past, and I was so too passionate with that. Representative Stutzman actually sent me, it's just absolutely incredible. This is going to be so wonderful. I want to put up the website real quick. This is ringofspies.com. Do we have that, producer? We're going to put that up for just a minute so you guys can see. You can be a founder, but really this is about the experience in October. Go reserve your seats today and learn more about the story. Share this everywhere, guys. This is worthy of your investment and worthy of your time. We're going to have such an incredible time. Starts in September after Labor Day weekend, and it will run until October 17th in Branson, Missouri. You do not want to miss this. So start making time, jot the calendar down. It will be at the Freedom Encounter Theater in Branson, Missouri. And we're going to make history. Ring of Spies. It's going to be incredible. Go check it out today. All right. So back, when it comes to the individuals and when it comes to securing freedom, we've all been called in some form or fashion because we are citizens of the United States of America to stand up for our country. It is not just left to those who go off to war or join the army or seek political positions. It's us, we the people, the individuals. We have a mandate to understand how things work and figure stuff out. And there are times when the most unlikely people are being called to acts of service in government. And I feel so bad for them. Case in point, Victor Marx. Recently, if you've been paying any attention at all on the internet, which, by the way, I just took all my social media off my phone and I already feel like 50 pounds lighter, just so you know. I think you should try that. Give it a couple weeks, take it all off your phone, but not today. Listen to me today for this moment. Candace Owens has been viciously ripping apart Victor Marx. It has been kind of a bloodbath. A lot of stories about denigrating his character, his work, conspiracies with Israel, Erica, Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, all these things. It's been pretty wild. The trouble for me has been that I've known Victor prior to this, Victor Marks, prior to him running for governor of the state of Colorado. Right now, he's leading in the polls, he's leading in the fundraising, and I can tell you the outrage circus is after him right now. So I wanted to make a few more heads explode today, because I'm not ever going to be one who, just because somebody 3,000 miles away from me who has a large platform tells me I shouldn't support somebody, is just going to go, okay, yeah, that's not going to happen. Not going to happen. I just, no. Please think for ourselves, guys. Please make up your mind and your decisions for yourself. You have to understand, when people are doing podcasts and platforms, I have a bent. I have a particular angle of what I'm trying to convey. I want people to love our country. I'm America first. Like, I have a bent. I'm a Christian. The things that I'm bringing to you are going to be things that I am passionate about, and I want you to be passionate about it too. So I'm going to convey that message in a way that hopefully will make you be as compelled as I am. Well, same with people like Candace Owens. And whether or not lover or hater, it doesn't really matter. She's getting the name of Victor Marks out there everywhere. And so I wanted to share my interview with Victor from 2024. There'll be some explanation as to how we know each other and how we all met, the Mr. Neil Bishop and I, and Victor Marks. And also, I just want you to remember, these people are human. Long before they run for office or step into this ring of political suicide, really. I mean, it's just so, like, it's not suicide, it's what is that called when you, like, you just like to punish yourself? I don't know. That's how I see politics these days. People who run for office, they have this need to punish themselves somehow. It's just so brutal. I've never seen anything like modern politics, you guys. And so I wanted people to remember that Victor Marx is a human. He was doing incredible work long before any of this. And there's so much that's been left out about him and his history, and why we even knew who he was in 2013, 2012. So I wanted to share it with you guys today. This is part one of my interview with him from the end of 2024. And I'm going to run part two. And guys, this is going to do it for me today. So stay with us, watch and share, 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 share. We're going to make a lot of heads explode today. And I will see you all back here on Monday. Here's my interview with Victor Marks. Welcome back to America's Mom. Our guest today is someone you've probably seen recently, especially in light of the global conversation now on child trafficking. Victor Marks not only holds the world record for gun confiscation, he can take it faster than you'll ever see, but he also is empowering individuals all around the world to protect themselves, defend themselves, while advancing his ministry, All Things Possible. His story is pretty much impossible to believe, and who he gives credit for the victorious life that he lives now is even more important. This is a story you're not going to want to miss, because you need the light as well. When we see people who are having victory in spite of unbelievable circumstances and extremely, extremely dark times, we want to glean from that. So Victor Marks joins us now.
I appreciate you and your husband and what y'all stand for, the sacrifices that y'all have made that people really won't ever know. And it started with caring for our youth and kids who were incarcerated, because I think that was our first connection many years ago, right?
Yeah. Many years ago, my husband brought you in and reached out to you. We had seen the incredible story of Victor Marks, the backstory. And there's so much that I want to get to, because you've been doing incredible work in Israel. I really want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah.
I've largely stayed neutral on everything happening there because I'm not there, but you actually took a trip there. So I want to get into that in a minute. But for those who may not totally know, your backstory, we all know you hold the world record for gun confiscation. Do not mess with Victor Marks. You were a Marine. You teach empowerment through martial arts. I mean, you've trained champions. And there's so much in leadership and in leadership development that I'd love to talk with you about today. And so, just as a little bit of who you are, what made Victor Marks? Can you just start, the backstory for those who may not know? We're not gonna marinate on this or meditate in this area, but just for people to know in your words, who is Victor Marks?
What made Victor Marks? Well, there's a mommy and a daddy, and they have a glass of wine. No,
yeah.
It's unfortunately, but commonly, I'm a typical story of a kid who came from a tough background. So my mom and dad actually weren't even married at the time I was born, and I was a leftover of them. I had them together. The first time I ever had my mom and dad together for the first time, like I was I was in my 20s. I'm married because they had, split up forever ago. And I just said, so when, what were the details of, and they both got very sheepish, and it was an awkward moment. But they said, between them both, the night that my mom got pregnant, my dad put a pistol to her head and shoved rosary beads down her throat. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I was the outcome of that. And my father, and again, like I said, they weren't married by the time I was born. They had tried it. They were a young couple. My mother was married, I think, at 15. And my dad was a few years older than her. They had 3 children. And I never forget my dad saying, you were going to be the miracle child. You were going to be what brings us together. And he said it with such enthusiasm, Toronto, but I said, but I didn't. And he goes, yeah, that too. So I grew up with a sense of being rejected by a biological dad. And then unfortunately, my mother would marry many times, 6 times. And her first marriage after my dad was a pedophile. And that's why I have such a heart for women, single moms who both are in need financial aid, assistance, protection, because the man is supposed to be the provider, protector. And because there was no one really there, I saw, I grew up seeing how things were bad. My mother has her place in this. She's never tried to shirk her responsibilities for bad choices. But as a result of marrying a pedophile, I got abused as a child, and it was severe. Ended up being torture, and I was left for dead in a commercial cooler. There's a lot more to it, and I would just tell folks, if you really want to understand my testimony, there's a film out on YouTube, the Victor Mark story. It's pretty old, but it does give insight. But I don't even know if you know this, I recently did an interview on the Sean Ryan.
Oh, yeah. I watched it.
Did you watch it?
I did. I love Sean. I love what God is doing in him and this incredible restoration that's happening with him. So I absolutely, yeah, I've seen all your interviews actually. So
Well,
yeah.
that was the most vulnerable I've ever been, and most I've ever shared. I can't tell you.
I thought Alex got you actually, and Sean took you
She
to
did.
another level.
Dang that girl, she did.
Yeah.
Because I had, but I really didn't have any intention, but she had a way of kind of drawing that out, which really, I was like, well, okay, the roof didn't fall and I didn't die and aliens didn't come and get me. So when it came time for Ryan's show, I told my wife, I said, babe, I think I'm just going to tell a lot more. And she goes, well, what do you have to lose? I mean, who you are, what you've done. So I did. And the response is unreal. Tens of thousands of people are responding to us. Actually, you catch me at a time when it's a little overwhelming, and
I was pretty overwhelmed after I finished the interview. I was like, this is, and it made me think, it's not that you've told it all, but the levels of freedom that well, the way Sean started out when he said, he's introducing you and he's talking about this man has overcome so much. He's so gritty. He just digs deep basically and overcomes. And, for those listening, from the ages of 3 to 7 was the most violent time of sexual abuse and physical abuse. I can't imagine being 5 years old and wanting to die, you know. But that is the reality of the circumstances you were living in. And so when he says, Victor just digs really deep and was able to overcome all of this, how much of that is true, where there was a personal will? And then how much of this has been truly God's intervention and intervening truly? There are a lot of people who want to believe, but life is brutal.
it is. And I love you. I love your heart. I thank God for you, because once you see and know too much, you really can't go back and be quiet about it. And it takes this, right?
Yeah.
And before I share that part of the question you just asked,
Mhm.
to really put a stamp on what you just said. That day I was in the youth facility where your husband asked me to come and speak. I will never forget, never. I've never forgot this one gal. She came up to me afterwards. The guards let her and me just stand off to the side while others went back to their pods or cells. And she, she told me her story, and then she goes, I get out like in 3 days. I said, I'm so happy for you. And I said, what are you going to do? Because she was turning 18. And she said, well, my dad's coming to get me. I said, is that a good thing? She goes, no, he's the one that's been raping me all these years, but I have no one else. And I mean, I remember hugging her and looking deep in her eyes. And I said, I love you. She goes, thank you. I said, no, look into my eyes. I said, I really love you. And I said, you're beautiful. You're not only beautiful, your value is so much. And she goes, thank you. And again, I said, look in my eyes. Am I lying? She goes, no. I said, but you don't believe that you're really beautiful or valuable. She goes, no. And I would say there are times when a person on their journey has survived horrible things that are unjust, things that'll make your brain break as a kid or even as a teenager and adult. And there are times that God will absolutely carry you. I mean, the footprints in the sand, that's real, where you think, you're kind of, but he's actually carrying you. There are other times where you don't trust him, and that's okay. And then it becomes heel marks in the sand. And that's where he's dragging you, and you're saying, no, I don't want to go this way. And then the other times he's just looking at you and he just says, follow me. I'm not going to pick you up. I'm not going to drag you. Just follow me. And so there are times, again, it's just our will. It's our grit of our soul just to trust, follow him. Other times you're struggling, but he knows if he doesn't pull you along, it's going to be really bad. And other times you're just incapable. And I remember some of my most hurting times where, I mean, even as a believer, when I was going through healing, because, I had 123 visits to a trauma specialist. I've been on Depakote, Depakine, Prozac, Zoloft, lithium, Buspar. I was in and out of the VA. It was pretty severe. And they had diagnosed me bipolar 2, ultra rapid cycler, which is got one of the highest suicide rates in the mental health aspect of illness. And I just remember it being complete rebellion to God. And he never put me down. He never made me feel bad. And I end up learning and growing, and I'll tell folks this all the time. God's not waiting to hit you with a hammer. When you miss the mark, he's just like, I love you. Blessings were waiting. Come on, let's do this again. So again, that whole concept of God being a father, pretty difficult for somebody like me. That girl in jail, many people watching or listening right now, but he really is a loving father that would look into your soul and say, you're beautiful and I love you. And you need
You
to believe
said,
it.
well, and I wonder, like for you, so you had this successful military career, and then you're training world champions. You've got this beautiful wife, the story of how you guys, you tell her that you're marrying her, and that's that. And then but then the reality is the actual life lived. And
Yes.
this is where I think in Christianity, a lot of the time, we're so worried that if we tell the truth of what's going on in our lives, that our testimony is going to be broken, or people are going to think
Yes.
we were a hypocrite or whatever. But for those who, and it's pretty much everybody who've been through something and they're trying to navigate the old man and really the victimization, the stuff that was put on you that, like you said it the best I've heard, breaks your brain.
Yeah.
What was that like in the early years, when you guys were first married and you're having children? I mean, were you saved from all of the PTSD and the
No.
anger and all of that? What did that period
Mhm.
look like for you?
Well, I would say this, that it started coming out more and more the longer we were married. I mean, I was definitely broken when we met, married. And, men ask me all the time, how did you get a woman like that? Because she is that. I mean, she's my dream gal, and I could have never gotten her on my own, period. And then God said, but this is who I have for you. And it was difficult. Um, it was difficult. Uh, but the one thing is we never gave up. There's something to be said about just bulldog faith. You lock on and you never give up. For us, divorce wasn't an option, because here she is marrying this guy who's in ministry and loves God. And then she's like, oh, you're kind of messed up. And I'm like, yeah, I think I am. And, we laugh
And you
because,
weren't trying to conceal it, right? I mean, it's
oh,
just
yeah,
that.
compartmentalization, minimal. But I couldn't, I mean, this is horrible, but I'll just tell it. My wife was Miss Fitness USA. She was a swimsuit model. She's
She's
been on,
gorgeous.
thank you. She's been on all these covers of magazines. But she also had boyfriends before me. And that was like the biggest thing. I was like, what? No, you can't date. You couldn't have. She's like, well, yeah, I kind of did. And because I had mom issues, because of the decisions my mom made, I started taking it out on my wife. It was like textbook. And I remember we were engaged. We sent out the wedding invitations, and she came over to my apartment, and I mean, it was like a dream. Just this is storybook stuff of love and all, but this was an indicator of how broke I was. She came over and we're excited, and every day I would change. Remember those old voice messages machines? It was like a cassette. So this, because it was the 80s.
You're
Every
dating yourself, yeah.
Yeah, every day I would, from the time we got engaged, and it was 3 months before we were married, but every day I would change the voice message, and it was her, and I would say, 29 days, and then I'm going to get married. 29, it's just every day I changed it. So we're living in this. She comes over, and I have zero emotions, Shalom. I mean, zero. And she goes, "Are you okay? Are you feeling bad?" I said, Eileen, I just don't feel anything." She's like, "Oh, is this like cold feet?" I said, "No, it's worse than that. I can't feel love, sadness, anger." I said, something in me just went into neutral, and I can't feel anything. And she was like, "Oh my gosh." And she goes, "Let's call someone." So ultimately we got a friend linked to a psychiatrist, and he's on the phone, and and she's listening, and he's like, "Hey, so tell me, Victor, about your mom." I was like, "No, don't try to shrink me about mom issues. That ain't me." He's like, "Okay." And then he goes, "What's the longest you dated a gal?" I said, "I dated a lot of gals, her." He goes, "I understand, but what's the longest?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, 3 months." So I had this pattern of 3 months, and then I would drop a girl. I'd pull a grenade. I would do something, and I would cut off the relationship at 3 months. And he goes, "Can you ever? What kind of advice did your mom ever give you about women or dating?" And I instantly remembered that. That wasn't something that was locked away. I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I was sixth grade. My mother was drinking a fifth of whiskey, walking down the hall of our little rental house, going out with a dude, and she was lit. She grabbed me and pulled me right to her. It's the only advice she ever gave me. She goes, "Don't ever trust a woman. They will use you and get rid of you." And then she pushed me so hard my head hit the wall. And that was almost like a seal. That imprint of my soul was sealed. Don't ever trust a woman, a girl. They're just going to use you and get rid of you. So I had this 3-month deal. Boom, guess what? We were at that 3-month deal. So all my emotions locked up, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the power of a woman." And I think women, listen to me, ladies, single or married, your influence is far greater on men than you think. And it's far more than breast and buns. Listen to me.
Yeah.
Your influence is far greater than you think. And I'll never forget Eileen looking at me, and she started crying. It was the first time I ever seen her like get emotional. And she said, "Victor," because she realized, "Oh my gosh, you're really broken." She
She
goes,
didn't know this about she didn't know your story yet.
no.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a little story, mom and dad divorced out,
Yeah.
but it was pretty PG. Church, it was church proof. And I never forget, she just goes, "Victor, I'm not your mom. I will never leave you, ever. God's called us, and I love you. He's called us to be married." She goes, "But I know right now you can't get married." So she said, "We'll tell everybody we're postponing the wedding until you're still safe." And then she goes, "But I'm not going anywhere. And when we're 85 years old, if that's when you're comfortable, we'll get married then." And she was looking into my soul, and she meant it. And I knew she did. And then I think we both just got emotional. We held each other, and God did something right there. He opened up a part of my soul to say, "You can trust her. You can trust her." And I did. We ended up getting married. That's 35 years ago. Like next month, it'll be 35 years. And I
You
tell
guys are like
folks,
newlyweds all the time.
oh my gosh. Yes. It's that's why I call her my bride. We've gone through the hard times, separated twice, my PTSD, my, she had a struggle. That's what I tell people. I tell people my luggage, my baggage was the little tram that brings it all to the plane, and there's a lot. And she says, "Well, I only had a carry-on, small," but she goes, "There were explosives in it," which
Very
could,
explosive.
yeah,
Women are very influential. And yes, when a bomb finally drops, it blows hard. It's
oh
true.
yeah.
It does. When was it for when was it that Eileen really realized there's deeply something deeply traumatic has happened to you?
Okay.
And you finally exposed, because this is interesting to
Yeah.
me. Just again, my perspective is a little bit more like leadership development, because a lot
Yeah.
of the time people don't realize, in order to grow in life, even our intimacy and relationship with God, our businesses, our families, our kids, being there for them requires this unveiling. And there we have to work through these things even though we don't want to. And it doesn't always you don't find these things out before you get married a lot of the time, because there is that trust factor you just described.
Yeah.
And it takes a minute. So when was it that you finally revealed to her? How long were you guys married? What was going on in your marriage at that time?
Well, it was early on in the marriage, by maybe a few years, where we're both deeply in love. We're both very passionate people and A-type driven, but where she finally went like, "Whoa," it, like early on, I took her trophy of Miss Fitness USA and I threw it in the dumpster. I threw magazines, anything of her in her past, I'm like just tossing. And she's like, "You okay?" I'm like, I don't want to know anything about your past. That I don't. And she's just like, "Whoa." So I carried it to such an extreme, right? And my wife has never struggled with her past. She's like, "Yeah, no, God redeemed me." But everything in my mind, the enemy was just blowing out of proportion. Now, and I would say, "Well, what about this?" And I would tell her, "I can't heal from a lie. Just tell me the truth." And she goes, "I do. So that was the process where she's gone, whoa. But she says this: the man who abused me horribly and tortured me, and there was another person that left me, put me in a cooler. But the man who, my stepfather, who really did some horrible, horrible things to me as a child, he called me from prison. And
As a grown man?
as a grown man, yeah. I mean, I was married. Eileen was right there. We have this conversation, and this is what she says: I could not believe what happened to your mind. It switched. She said, you went from this Marine black belt who feared no one, who would rush into any chaos to bring order, provide or protect. You went from this big man to a little child. She was stunned. My voice was kind of changing. I was getting smaller. I was like, yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh. And she couldn't believe it. And even from prison, he was manipulating me. And when the phone call was done, it took me a few minutes, and I came back to me. And she was like, whoa, do you know what just happened? I'm like, I just had a weird call with my stepfather. She goes, babe, you became like a kid. Your mannerisms, you got very, and I was like, oh, shoot. And both of us didn't realize at that point that, like, fully understand I had developed splits or breaks in my personality to help me deal and cope with torture and child abuse. And it would be years. And that was all the psychiatry and psychology help to help what we call integrate these broken personalities into one. Meaning, yeah.
And I don't want to interrupt. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that. But you do recommend then that people who have been abused, do you recommend psychiatric help? You recommend therapy?
I do, and there's varying levels, and there's a place for medication when it works. When it doesn't, and you're just kind of experimenting, well, the biggest issue people typically have is anxiety, fear and panic, and some people suffer needlessly. And I say, look, get on some medication or take as needed to help you quash panic attacks or these fears that are not realistic, but they're keeping you tormented. So there's a place for that. Good psychologists, or who I call soul surgeons. And I certainly prefer Christians, people with like-minded values who understand spiritual warfare. Because remember, this is what it's all spiritual warfare. That's the highest level of combat. And when the enemy, breaks a child, it takes a lifetime to help repair an adult. And God can do it. I would always think of that little riddle or poem, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men, they couldn't put him back together again. That they said they couldn't put Humpty together, but the king did. Not all the king's horses and men, they couldn't, but the king could. And that's how I always look at God Almighty is the only one that can ultimately put your mind together to help you. If you have split personalities, how to bring them and integrate them back. I call it the boardroom. It's like, hey, sit down at the boardroom, and everybody has a form of dissociation. There's varying degrees, and everybody has personalities. I tell people, as a mother, you're one person. As a wife, you're another. As an athlete, intimacy in the room. There's all these aspects, business, of personalities that make up the sum of a person. But when they're broken because of trauma, either acute trauma or extended, and the child, a young person, has to, cope, and then the problem is they start leaving the boardroom, they start wandering outside, and it affects you as an adult. I remember somebody told me, they said, wow, There are times where I get so upset, I cry like a child. And I go, yeah, that's probably part of you as a child just needs healing. And again, and I'll put a warning out there. There's a lot of weird people in that space too. Psychiatrists, psychologists that shouldn't even be doing what they're doing. So you have to find, you can't just trust anybody. You have to find the right one that God brings you to. For me, fortunately, in the film, I introduced her. It was Dr. Arlise McDonald, who helped put me back together through EMDR. That was a form of, a protocol of mental health that helped me really get healthy. And again, there's varying levels, but don't quit. That's the main thing. Don't give up. Be honest with yourself. Just like I said earlier with someone else, I can't heal from a lie because somebody told me, well, you can't heal your soul if you're not honest with yourself.
Mhm. The thing that people say about you is, in spite of everything that happened to you, you're living this unbelievable life. And I was thinking about that and I actually thought it was because of what happened to you that you're living this incredible life. How do you see it?
I would agree with you. And I think it can be both and, because the biggest thing people, when they really find out my story, they do say that they're like, I would never have thought you went to, and I said, well, most of the one percenters who've accomplished things that 99% of the other people don't, it's because they come from really broken, tough background. So they were driven and they developed these approaches and mechanisms to do things that most people go, how in the world do you accomplish so much?